of the brothers who the ancestors have chosen to go back and learn and pass this knowledge on to us and bring this to us. Now, normally, we don't tape during class, but for today, because we have a special guest, if you want to tape, it's okay.
Okay.
If there's anything personal that comes out, we'll freeze the tape and we'll deal with that. But other than that, normally we don't tape because we like to have a sacred space where people can share anything without thinking it's gonna wind up somewhere else. But today, because we have a special guest, we will take for him and share what we have to share. Ashe?
Ashe.
So today, without further ado, because I can talk all day, but I'm not gonna talk all day. Without further ado, I want to share with you a brother who's been a blessing to me, who I've had a chance to be in his presence and to learn from him. And when I asked him if he would like to come and share with my class of people who are seeking to be better and be healed, he said, yeah. He said, yeah, Baba, let's make it happen. I said, okay. How soon can we do it? He said, so I talked to the lovely assistant. He said, we've got time to last Saturday. I said, oh, then it's done. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce to some, reintroduce to others, and let us all know he's like family. You may not know he's in your family, but he look like your cousins, so you know he is. Dr. Kang. Dr. Kang. You can walk Actually, would you move that back? So, yeah, move the whole thing back.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Shaka Kang Zulu Kang. I'm a doctor in natural medicine. I was born into medicine. Very few people really understand what that means when one is born into medicine. I always like to start with my grandfather. My grandfather was a shaman, and people came from all over the world, doctors, engineers, and you name it, people with PhDs, and they'll sit at his feet, and he'll heal them. He was a man who never went to school, but presidents, ministers, and kings and queens, they sat at his feet. There's a thing in Africa called Jabu. If you mention it within people of higher places, it's what most presidents and ministers and people in high places, they carry in their pockets up to today. And it's hard to kill any president in Africa with either, food poisoning or like witchcraft through food or whatever, because all you just have to do is carry this thing in your pocket. My grandfather created that or whatever, because while my grandfather was growing up or whatever, a lot of presidents would get poisoned, by their counterpart. That's how they were able to move them out of place. But born into a shamanic family, he was privileged to have gotten a lot of this knowledge. If you showed him any plant, when I say any plant, he knew exactly what it did to the human body. If you showed him any herb, any branch or anything, he knew exactly what it does to the human body. So I was born into all of this. The Europeans, doctors, engineers, they'll come from far and wide, to come. Doctors said, oh, you're sick of this, there's no cure for it. You have cancer, you have HIV, we've given you just 2 months, and people come. And he knew exactly, he looked at the human body totally different or whatever. But my grandfather tells a story about his grandparents also. They were saying that when the Europeans were coming to Africa, one of his grandparents said, there's a race that is coming, and they're not coming here for anything, they're coming for the knowledge. And so my great-great-grandparents started digging, like graves, and started burying a lot of the books. And my great-great-grandparents were warning everyone, like, these people, they're coming for the knowledge, like, they're gonna turn your people, your grandkids, into zombies. And so they started burying a lot of these books, And one of the books that I was very, very fortunate to read was called The Science of Compounding and the Science of Healing the Human Body. And in the Science of Compounding, it says in one of the verses, it says, if you put 1 to 32 herbs together, it's considered food, and from 33 is considered medicine. So for example, I remember Dr. Mark, he came from England, and Dr. Mark asked my grandfather, like, hey, Mr. Simon, look at this moringa, what does it do? And one great thing about my grandfather is that he was a great storyteller. He always liked to teach people by demonstration, like taking them to nature. And so when he asked him, like, what does moringa do? And then my grandfather said, this is not how medicine is. That the reason why we're giving a brain is so we can understand what alchemy, that is putting herbs, different herbs together, that's in synergetic effect, is what gives it the medicinal property. It's not taking it like an individual. I don't know if that's making sense. So he took Dr. Mark outside. He said, look, how many trees do you see here? How many varieties? Mr. Mark said, I see plentiful. Can you count it? And then he said, no. He said, well, the reason why God put all these plants in so many varieties is so we can use our common sense to be able to put them all together for it to be medicine. Does that make sense? Okay. And so this is how he taught, or whatever. And to make a long story short, I was born. And I have an older sister. My older sister, she's in Denmark. She's a gynecologist. I come from a family of 7. And that's my wife, she tell you. All my whole family, they're all medical doctors. I grew up in one of those families, like we have no choice. You know, it's not like here, you know, they tell you like, hey, you know, whatever you want to do or whatever. But even my kids, they know they're gonna become doctors, and then they never have to use that, you know, to become, because it's very important. One thing I noticed is that a lot of us were coming to play a universal game without understanding the rules or whatever. That third dimension, there's so many rules that have been put, laws in place, and a lot of us were struggling because we don't understand the rules, and so we suffer. We're just playing a blind game with people who understand all the rules, and we wanting to compete. We can never win until we understand that. And these are some of the things, you know, like growing up, you know, grandfather constantly instilled in me. And so when I was, okay, beautiful. So when I was born, or whatever, my sister was born, my grandfather was into, when I was born, my grandfather said, oh, this is Zulu. And just, you know, the term Zulu means, you know, the child of the gods. And they're like, hey, this is it. He's the one that's gonna carry over. And what the African always believe is that one doesn't go to school to study medicine. You're born into medicine or you're not, you know, whatever. And if you take someone who's born into medicine side by side with someone who studied medicine, you'll see a big difference or whatever. It's not something I'm bragging or whatever. You know, for years, even when I started on my journey, I had to constantly prove myself until a lot of doctors, and now they're like, oh, I think he's the one, he knows his stuff. You know, if you put any disease, any problem, any health problem, I know exactly what causes it. I know how to fix it or whatever. And so, you know, so people constantly come from all over and they'll get healed. You know, I was born seeing this. So when I was born, my grandfather said he's the one. And I remember at 3 years old, whatever, where they say, finding the true shaman. It's almost like a celebration that is done in the village. Finding the true shaman is where, you know, they release a lion. And when they release a lion or whatever, one who is born of the ancestors, this is where they're gonna be able to identify this one. And so when they released the lion at 3 years old, I knew not to be scared. And all the other kids ran and climbed up the trees and everyone was scared or whatever. Anyone who's seen my pictures, my videos, you know, I have some of my work out there if you've never seen it, from holding the rein, you know, when they had like ceremonies, my grandfather would be the one, you know, hold the rein, he'll be the one who stops the lion, he'll be the one if there was any catastrophe or whatever. So I was born just knowing how to do all these things. People be like, how do you know? So if you showed me any plant, any herb, you know, I knew exactly what it did to the human body. I've used it to be able to help so many people. So as I was growing up or whatever, you know, I found myself just knowing some things. And then at 3 years old, I went through a rite of passage with the elders and my grandfather, where they put some herbs together. They gave it to me. When I ate it, I woke up the next day, I knew everything. You can test me. I could look at people, I know exactly what is wrong with them or whatever. For years, I had to, as I said, I had to prove myself. But now, even the doctors, I'm never here anymore. I'm constantly flying. I'm going to places. Even, you know, the Jewish community, they just had me in New York. They had one of the biggest prominent scientists, doctor, who just had a cancer. And everyone said, all of the doctors, they said, you're dying. There's nothing we can do for you. And, you know, she comes, she meets me or whatever, and you see her whole life change. So they flew my wife and I to New York, and they're like, we need to support our brother. They called me their brother. And I went to the hallway and I was crying. They're like, we need to support our brother. And one of the rabbi, I won't mention his name, like, you see this brother, this is our brother. If you touch this one, I'm not a gangster, but boom, 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 this is what he says of me. And I was like, wow, isn't this, you know, interesting. And then they said, everyone, take your wallet off. We got to support our brother. and we sold over maybe $100 and something thousand, like in one day. Like, hey, let's support him. We're not gonna let him go out there and not be supported like those other people or whatever. They want knowledge, but they're running around because they don't know where to look for it or whatever. And this is what he was saying. So at 6 years old, I got my ceremony, my initiation, and I woke up, I knew everything. I looked at human beings completely different or whatever. If anyone's seen my videos, I've done over 3,000 diagnosed with 300 diagnosed. What I'm telling people, you're having a heart attack, you're having a stroke, you're having this, and it happens. It's all over YouTube, please. Everything I'm saying, you can go. I have videos to show all of this thing. Because one thing, it's when you talk to melanated people, you got to show them. they want to see. And one thing about that is that because a lot of us, we might not be good at something or whatever, but we constantly, oh, because I'm not good at it, no one can do it. You know, whatever. It's not about competition. And that's where my grandfather says, you know, we're all like mango trees or avocado trees, that everyone, just like the brother said, the chair, you know, the person who made this chair wasn't made for itself to sit on. Everyone has a gift. Everyone brings their gift to the world. You're like that mango tree. You bring the mango to feed. The mango doesn't produce a mango for itself. The avocado tree doesn't produce avocado for itself. Everything is given onto itself, you know, with least effort. And so, you know, like growing up and spending a lot of time in the jungle, you know, my grandfather never ate anything that was cooked a day in his life. You climb up the mango tree and eat the mango direct. You climb up the avocado tree and eat the avocado direct. You climb up the coconut tree and eat direct, or whatever. He said when you eat like this, you catch the first and the second life, or whatever. He said when you eat like this, you catch the first and the second life. And he says because birds eat like this constant, or whatever, they're able to use their hands as wings. They say, in alchemy, they say human beings have wings, but they use it as hands. They say birds have hands, but they use it as wings. It's very, very important to understand that. That is the same part of the body is connected right here by the shoulders or whatever, so they're using that. And, you know, so I saw a lot of the stuff, you know, my grandfather just being in nature and, you know, the connection he had. And people always ask the question like, Mr. Simon, what are we supposed to eat or whatever? He said, even when we look at the human anatomy, he says, by nature, we're not meat eaters, you know, and he said, meat eaters, they have claws. Meat eaters have an upper body to be able to hold down their meat. No one of us can hold down even a pig and take a bite on it